Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to GRS, and we are here today, as always, on a Wednesday with F1. Unfortunately, just the 11 drivers today. The announcement of the F123 release date has kind of killed the game off. So, more or less, if you finish, you get points right from the outset here as we move into qualifying. First of all, it's looking pretty dry and sunny. We did see some rain in F3, but it was beating sun in F2 yesterday, so we may be seeing more of the same here for our top tier championship gap between the McLaren driver of Luke Mills and Ferrari of Ian Bilbas is currently 24 points. So with just 3 races to go after this one, this could prove to be pretty pivotal in that fight. Singapore, Shanghai and Suzuka all to come. But here for Australia, let's jump on board with Blake Ward, who is jumping up to F1 this week as one of our reserves. Let's see how he gets his Haas around the track here. Hard on the brakes down into second gear for turn 3. That's an unusual gear choice. Takes quite a lot of curve though through turn 4. That can unsettle the car, but nice and pinned in 7th gear through 5 and then into the reprofiled turn 6. Carry as much minimum speed as physically possible. There's a huge straight now here. The old chicane of 7 and 8 taken out and just replaced with this sweeping long straight through the parks of Melbourne. It's just important to find your braking point. You can take a lot of curb here through this fast chicane. Blake just playing it a little safe on his banker lap. Doesn't want to put himself in a wall and ruin his quality early. He's just kind of trying to get himself a delta on the board. They're the new reprofiled, what is now turn 10 as well. Now a 90-degree corner. Just careful to avoid the red on the inside. And here on the penultimate corner as well. And then a very difficult traction zone through the final corner. Blake does pretty well with that though. Gets the DRS open for the run to the line and will open us up with an 18-1, which is a pretty solid lap. As Lucas has just proved how difficult the traction is on that final corner with a big spin, which is unfortunate. But let's jump on with Luke, currently P2 in the driver's standings. We'll be looking to close that gap on Iron, get it down as low as possible. Although Iron's on track at the moment and going quite quickly with a purple sector 1. So Luke will be hoping he can find the time in sectors 2 and 3, hopefully. As Lucas with that spin does a 22.9, but that will obviously improve as the session goes on. Luke with a 17.8 to start us off for the championship protagonists. Let's see what Iron does against that. Can he take provisional pole on his banker lap here? The 2 Mercedes coming up quickly behind as well, as Iron's half a second quicker than Luke. And it's going to be Thomas first of the Mercs, who goes even quicker than Iron. And then Justin slots into that gap between Iron and Luke. So Thomas with the fastest lap right now is 17.262, which puts him currently on provisional pole, a 10th faster than Iron. And then a 2/10 gap back to Justin, and then 2.5 tenths back to Luke. Which is quite a lot for what is a pretty quick track here. George slots in the second Ferrari into P6, a second off. And then Bayard has obviously got a non-representative lap. Hugo's invalidated, so this won't be a lap time. So we'll be sitting pretty low down. We'll have to go later and do his bankers. Let's jump on with Callum Pierce. He is an F3 driver who has moved up to F2 and then F1 this week. Didn't have the best result in F3, was a fair few incidents in that race and managed, I think, P7 in the end, but did get on the podium in F2 with a pretty good strategy call. Went on some hard tyres on a relatively early safety car, managed to stretch them out nicely to the end. Callum is handling the car pretty well here through this part, but unfortunately goes off at turn 4 and invalidates. That's probably the easiest place to invalidate your lap. Yeah, unfortunately just 11 this week, Marek. Mitch is meant to be joining mid-quali, so that will put us to 12, which is a little better, I suppose, but should keep the race flowing nicely and shouldn't have too much in the way of carnage, ideally. I think Hugo is going again, though, so must have had sufficient fuel. No fuel light on, so this is going to be hopefully a representative lap from the lone Red Bull today. Johnny's not here. It's Norway's National Get Pissed Day, so he's choosing to do that instead. Which I think is perfectly reasonable when he's not in a championship fight, as Hugo managing it quite well through Sector 1. Manages to take Turn 5 flat as well and keep it nicely within track limits, so it's a 26.9 for the first sector, which is a pretty good first sector. Anything in the 26s is pretty decent. I know the game says purple, but I'm pretty sure that's not. As Hugo now making his way down this sweeping part of the circuit, looking to spot his braking point. Hugo, of course, one of our no-line drivers, so needs to manually spot that braking point. Runs off track on the exit of the fast chicane, but backed off sufficiently so it doesn't invalidate his lap. So this will be good to just to get a Dello on the board, but it's not going to be competitive with the top guys. I don't think this is going to be a low 17, but we might see a high 17 from Hugo, which will put him P5 right now. If he can just get this third sector all together. A tricky traction through here. Keeps off that inside curb, which can help the car out, but can also unsettle it a little. So it's an 18.0, so not quite in the 17s, but still P5. About a tenth quicker than Blake, so decent lap for now. Here goes Luke, starting a new one though. We'll be looking to improve on that first banker, which wasn't the best lap. Takes a lot of curb in turn 1, and that allows him to get on the power nice and early for this run down into turn 3. There's going to be the Red Bull of Hugo ahead, but I'm not sure if that's going to cause him any traffic or not. I think he might just about get away with it. As he heads through turn 5, nicely flat through there. Takes a little bit of inside curb. Hugo avoided that. He's already found 4 tenths on his lap time, so if Luke can find another tenth and a half or so through the remainder of the lap, the majority of the lap, there's a lot of the track is Sector 3, which is kind of where the time is found and lost. And he's going to be looking at pretty good here. Half a second up. Takes a lot of curb on that first part of the chicane, and the second nicely straightens the car, runs over the outside curb. Allows him to cut that second part of the chicane without unsettling the car too much. Can be a little suspect over there sometimes. Takes a lot of the outside curb, but you can kind of just pin the car through there. It's probably the best corner on the track for raw traction. Nice apex for that second last corner. Opens up the final turn nice and wide. Just 2 tyres on the outside curb. Doesn't want to get too close to the outside wall and have to steer again to beat the grass. And it's the first lap in the 16s for Luke, a 16.997. As Harry's jumps up to P4. I missed that with Luke on his lap. Puts him pretty respectable. That's a 17.3. I think that's quicker than he did on pole yesterday in F2. But he did only really get 1 lap in for that. As Thomas has just come out on an out lap. Is anybody else really on a flyer? It looks like Justin is. Maybe Thomas trying to just ease off slightly to give Justin a tow through that middle sector. We'll stay on board with the Mercedes, see if that transpires. Although Thomas needs to be careful because he is around traffic, which is an Alpine. And yeah, it looks like Thomas is going to give Justin a tow here, but he's timed it kind of wrong. Justin's going to have to go round the outside of his teammate. So if anything, that's cost them time. Thomas just didn't quite get hard enough on the power early enough out of that corner. We'll see what Justin is currently doing. He's a tenth and a half up. The Alpine is sort of getting out of his way as he picks up an extra little bit of tow here down what is in the race the third DRS zone. Nicely into the newly reprofiled turn 11, I believe that is. It takes about as much inside curb as you dare. And then very good through the second last corner, but doesn't quite open it up as much as Luke did, so that's going to compromise him slightly through the final corner. He chooses to take a little more curb on exit. And it is a 17.0, so exactly a tenth off Luke's time right now. But these two with those second laps, so doing some good work. Thomas may have started a little too close to the Alpine ahead, hoping that that's going to be Bayode, hoping Bayode can kind of drag him along a little bit maybe, and he doesn't have too much pace to catch. Justin choosing to get completely out of the way of these two. And Thomas has unfortunately invalidated his lap already, so will be an improvement from the other Mercedes driver, who has moved from Alfa Romeo for the remainder of the season. A little mid-season signing for the Silver Arrows. As there you go, number 12 is now in the lobby with Mitch taking his Haas, as he is kind of required to do. Harry and Blake into the pits. So who's next man on a lap? Is that going to be George? Yeah, George is on a lap. He's a quarter of a second up. This is going to put him in the high 17s if he can keep this all together. Lot of power down in that final corner. Very confident on traction there, George. It's a 17.7, so he finds another couple of tenths on the likes of Luke and Justin in that final sector alone. So if you just bear with me for the technical difficulties. There we go. Back in with 5 minutes left to go. Let's see if anything has changed since we were last here. Thomas did manage to get a lap in and jumps ahead of his teammate. Let's just get my timing shit back on. Irons a tenth and a half up, just about keeps it in track limits. We'll be looking to get a lap in at least the 17 zeros here if he wants to be competitive with the guys right at the front. And Harry's only half a tenth off him, which is not what you want when you're fighting for the F1 title, considering Harry is fighting for the F2 title. Although Harry is very quick, so that's not a slight against him. As Iron takes a lot of curb on the exit of the final corner, but it's going to be a 17.2, so didn't manage to find any time in that final sector. As we've got Thomas going very slowly. I think he may be out of fuel in that Mercedes. Hopefully he should have enough time to get back to the pits and get out, as we've got both the Haas guys out on track together here. Mitch running ahead of Blake. We'll be looking to do a bit of a one and done here in quali, as he was late to the lobby. Although we knew about that in advance, so no penalty coming for Mitch. Is anybody actually on a lap? I don't believe they are, so it is going to be Mitch to start us off here for the final runs. Just needs to be careful of this slowly moving Mercedes, though the yellow flag indicators going to be keeping him apprised of what is happening ahead on track, and he's going to manage to still be behind Thomas when Thomas heads to the pit lane. So let's jump on board with Mitch, see how he does here. Potentially some traffic up ahead though. There's a Ferrari Williams and an Alpine just heading their way to turn 3, so Mitch is probably going to catch them on this lap. Needs to hope they don't hold him up too much, if at all. Ideally not at all, obviously. As nicely meets the apex third gear for turn 3. Managed to get it back around and across itself. As he heads into turn 6 and just about keeps it within track limits. That was carrying a lot of speed through there. A little scuffed potentially, but especially for a one and done lap, but manages to keep it valid. As he heads down this now sweeping section of the track. Expect to see some contests down here, even without the DRS. Avoids the curbs through the chicane, the smart thing to do when you've only got one lap. As the Ferrari nicely pulls out of his way. As we head into the meat of Sector 3. Chooses to completely avoid that outside curb. You can ride quite a lot of that, but Mitch choosing to play it safe with just having the one lap. Almost runs off track on the second last corner, but manages to keep it in track limits. Mitch, as an F3 driver, does run medium traction, so can completely pin it through that final corner. And it's a 19.4, so not the best lap, but let's see what Blake's done. He's invalidated. Although he has managed to recharge, so we'll be going again. Hugo's just on outlap, as is Lucas. So we're going to be looking at whichever Alpine this is. Harry, who's also invalidated, so we'll be going again. So is that Luke next, who's on an outlap? Oh, well, an invalid lap, which has become an outlap. I don't think anybody's actually really on a flyer. Bayard's invalid. Iron's on an outlap and choosing to go past. I think George is on a flyer though, so we'll be hoping he doesn't get held up by the Alpine here. As he's burning down his batteries. Half a tenth down, needs to find some time in this final sector. Doesn't quite get that corner cut right on the exit of the chicane. Bayard gets nicely out of his way. So George isn't going to lose any time to traffic here. I don't think he's going to catch Iron, as Iron's just about to start his lap up ahead. As Hugo's binned it through the fast chicane. So, traditions, in the words of adopted Australian Valtteri Bottas. But nicely done through Sector 3 once again for George. Very brave around that final corner. Finds 3,000ths, so a huge amount of time there. I'm not sure if anybody else is actually on a lap proper. Let's have a little scroll through. Lucas Rudd is, and he's 6/10ths up. 600ths up. Managed to find 3/10ths into the 17s. Jumps ahead of Blake and Hugo. Nicely done there. As let's have a look at Harry. Harry was 2/3 of a tenth down, but as I say, meat of the lap is Sector 3. Plenty of time to find, plenty of time to lose as well. As Harry to the line, it's not an improvement. So we won't be seeing any more of that. Justin has invalidated, so won't be improving either. So next man to cross the line is going to be Iron Bilbas. As he's all over the gravel and the grass on the exit of the fast chicane. Somehow keeps the lap valid. Must have had to lift to save the car there. A little bit of a lock-up, but manages to pin the throttle nicely on the way out of turn 10. And flicks it round these final couple of corners. Manages to, despite some under-rotation from the front tyres, get it in and get to the apex on that second last corner. For the run to the line. Oh, it did invalidate his lap. That was a really late invalidation. Luke's headed to the pits. Wasn't improving. As is... Whoa. Bayard wrestling the car. And Thomas behind. So George is... Yeah, he's already finished. So that is going to set our grid, I think. Because Mitch had a little spinny spin even though he was up on his time. So unfortunately for the Haas driver, won't have a chance to improve. We'll be starting last of all. Well, it looks like the clouds have rolled in as we move on to race day. So there is definitely the chance for some rain. I wonder if there was a little bit of a mismatch of strategies in terms of dry setups and wet setups. Though I suppose that depends on how wet it says it's going to be. But I'm seeing soft tyres in Justin's garage. Is he really going to start softs here? Well, red lights are coming on. That is 5 lights And it's lights out and away we go in Australia. Luke doesn't get the best start, and both the Mercedes here are going to be coming and looking to swarm past the McLaren. Tyres at the front. Irons slightly off track there at turn 2. Just a little bit of a case of the concertina effect, and Mitch is already up to P7, so a hell of a start from the second Haas car. Blake's sending it on iron a little bit. Although that may be a case of it's disconnecting me and it's just showing me that. I hope he doesn't keep doing this all race. And we're back with VSC. I think. Yeah. So we've got a VSC, I'm not entirely sure why. Blake and Harry have both dropped quite a few spaces. Mitch is up to P5 by some miracle of motor racing. Oh, although he is on soft tyres, which explains quite a lot. Let's take a look. Yeah, so Mitch on the softs, Iron, Callum Pearce, Bayard Bello, and George, currently in the pits, will be on medium tyres as the VSC has come to an end. So let's see, can Mitch live with this front four? I hope so, because it will be hilarious if he can. And Iron's going to be having fits in that Ferrari. As we see Thomas looking for a move on Luke. Can he make this a Mercedes 1-2? Deploying the battery on that Silver Arrow. And is going to make the move around the outside of Luke's McLaren. As he's going to put Luke and Iron next to each other on track with Mitch waiting in the background. As Thomas starting to get a move on, looking to work with his teammate here. Try and keep the two championship protagonists behind them if they can, as Thomas gets a bit of a slide, but not in the right place for Luke to be able to take advantage of that. Luke just doesn't quite seem to have the pace of the Mercedes pairing. And he's dropping back a little bit, gets a bit of a snap there, and this could put Iron right on the back of the McLaren. There's going to be some battery deployment from that Ferrari engine as he looks to push up into the podium positions. Medium tyres helping out a little bit. Slides back onto the racing line, but gave Luke room, but has already picked up 3 seconds and has run well off track there at turn 2. And that's put Luke through, and it's put Mitch all over the back of the McLaren as well. I mean, 3 steps softer tyres here. Remember, the soft tyres are 2 steps softer than the mediums at Australia specifically. So can Mitch make these work before we get to the point where they're basically shaped like 50p pieces as Mitch runs off track at turn 5, but it's going to give him a bit of a run on Luke here. And Luke has already lost the DRS range to the 2 Mercs ahead, so he's going to be a little bit vulnerable here. Can Mitch move into the podium positions? This is a no practice 1 quali lap F3 driver, though he's leading the F3 standings. But he's going to get the DRS here, and is he going to go for a move? Are we going to see Mitch on Luke? Just about manages to hold on, does the McLaren of Luke Mills, as we've had a swap for the lead with Thomas now ahead of Justin. So I wonder if that was a little bit tactical. Thomas seems to have an awful lot of pace, and if he can drag Justin along with him, keeping out of the DRS range of the cars behind, that's going to be very helpful. Let's take a little look a bit further down the field. Callum Pearce putting Lucas Rudd under pressure. These two were both F3 last season, but Lucas is close enough to Bayard Bello ahead to also get that rear wing open with the DRS assistance. Callum goes a little deep into turn 3, but should allow him to stay ahead of Blake Ward in that following second Haas car. And they've all kind of dropped Harry a little bit, so I wonder if Harry's had some damage or something while we were unfortunately disconnected from the session. As Irons made his way past Mitch, so I wonder if there was a mistake there from the Haas driver. Seems to have dropped a decent amount of time to Luke. Or maybe it's just a case of those soft tyres already starting to fall off. But Iron really needs to make the most of these mediums, especially if he wants to cover that 3-second penalty. It's already a track where the overcut's powerful at Australia. So Iron's going to have to stop earlier with those tyres unless there is a safety car to help him out. As we've got Callum and Lucas going side by side here through the third sector. Blake right behind him, just keeping a very close eye on this. Lucas goes slightly off track, and that might open him up to a move around the outside, and Blake's going to get that done. We've got yellow flags, and that's Mitch in the final corner as Lucas heads to the pit lane. That is unfortunately going to drop Mitch all the way down to P10, although he will be P9 after Lucas boxes. After fighting for a podium, it's just all kind of unravelled for him a little bit, unfortunately. As Harry makes his way back into the points and ahead of Lucas, we'll be looking to close in on these guys ahead of him. He has closed quite a bit in the last lap or so, showing that he definitely has an awful lot of pace. But let's jump on with Luke and Iron. Fighting for the championship, now fighting on track. That gap is at 24 points, so Luke really needs to hold Iron off here as much as possible. And try and close that gap down, even if it's only a little bit. If he can get that gap under 25 points and keep it there, then one DNF can completely swing this championship around in these last 3 rounds. And I'm not saying Iron's going to crash on his own. And F1's generally pretty clean, but we have got Singapore next, so I don't think there's anybody guaranteed to finish that race. Blake making a mistake there on the second last corner. He's still going to get the DRS, and it is a double detection here, so... Well, never mind. There we go again. Somewhere, the internet gods are having a seizure. And whether it's me or Hugo, I don't know. Probably me. It's normally me. But well, at least we don't miss too much when it does happen. It like immediately lets me back in, so I wonder if it's a little bit of an F122 thing where the moment it detects that your internet's not perfect, it's just deciding to yeet you out of the lobby, which I get if you're racing, but if you're spectating, it seems a little overzealous, shall we say. Well, let's carry on with Iron and Luke. Iron has managed to make that move up into P3. But Luke is going to have better tyres in probably a couple of laps. I think it's going to take for that crossover. And then you've got Bayode has managed to clear Hugo behind them as well. As Thomas Gragg gets 3 seconds, that could prove pivotal if Luke can stay penalty free. That's going to be 2 potential places he can gain if he can stick with the Mercedes driver and Iron. And of course it's going to help Justin out, who's getting dragged along nicely by his teammate. Now Thomas has that 3-second penalty. Justin knows he can just sit here, make the most of Thomas's pace, and still end up with a victory at the end of it all. As Thomas a little bit off track at turn 5, but seems to be absolutely fine. Didn't really lose any time, but also doesn't seem to have gained anything either. So, as they were, I suppose that would be. As Lucas has binned it. Lucas has had a crash at turn 1. This could be a full safety car. It is. Full safety car. That is going to neutralise the whole thing. This plays perfectly into Iron's hands here. And Bayode and Callum Pierce. All the guys who started on the medium tyres. And, of course, Mitch. Who can all pit onto some hards, go to the end from here. And it's basically going to give them a pit stop advantage. Although they are going to be pretty slow come the end of the race versus what's going to be some reasonably fresh tyres. So yeah, we do see Iron diving into the pits. Luke's going in as well. Is Luke going to try and hang some mediums out for 22 laps? That could be a little suspicious. As Bayard's in as well, and so is Hugo. So Mercedes just dropped the ball here. Yeah, Mitch didn't bin it. Mitch is fine. Mitch has, you know, he was fighting for a podium and then had some self-inflicted problems. Yeah, if Mitch can keep this within pit stop range of the two Mercedes and his teammate, that could definitely spice this up, as they're going to have to find a way past the Haas later on in the race. Don't mind me not talking too much on the safety car. I currently have food to attempt to eat. I'll still be keeping an eye on if anything unfolds. But it's just a period for the race to settle itself a little bit. Everyone to recharge their battery, save any fuel that they need to save, and just reform for a lap or two. George has gone back on some hard tyres that he started the race on. They've only done one lap, so they should be perfectly fine to go to the end. And I think he's going to be able to play a part in this as well. If he can, again, if he can stick within a pit stop of the leaders by the time they do have to come in and put some new boots on, that is absolutely going to be defend for your life to help Iron out a little. Anytime he can cost Justin and Thomas while they're trying to come through, is going to be very beneficial to his teammate. Always trust my predictions about tyres, Marek. I am the tyre whisperer. And I think 22 laps is optimistic on mediums. I think they're around about 4% a lap generally on tyre wear. So that would be looking somewhere up around the 90s. So we may see Luke coming in again. He's just choosing to put some mediums on, since Iron was pitting as well. Keep the track position where it was, and just have those better tyres for the next portion of the race, and then later pit for some softs and be a bit mega. We may even see, I wonder if we're going to, a little bit of sneaky team play from Mercedes here with the safety car restart, which isn't going to be coming in yet. George has pit again, this time onto some mediums. So I wonder if that's at the request of Iron to make sure I just stay within that pit stop window. But we are going to stay out behind safety car for one more lap. There'll be 19 to go at the end of this one. And, oh, whoa, it's coming in. So George has been kind of abandoned here. That was not expected. Though if Thomas slows this down enough, George is going to be able to catch up. He's in a pretty quick section of the track right now. And obviously closing rapidly as these guys are all weaving around, giving the safety car a little bit of room to breathe, to move. As Justin is dropping back a little bit off of Thomas, but Blake's not giving him any breathing room. And Thomas is gone. Thomas has put the hammer down before the final corner, which is a slightly unusual place to restart. A little bit of weaving going on from Justin, Blake and Thomas, just trying to get some heat into those hard tyres. But I think that's all fine and above board. Nobody was closing in looking to make an attack. But Iron gets a great drive off the first two corners. Brand new hard tyres may have managed to keep the heat in them slightly better. Looks towards the outside of turn 3. He's going to drive it around the outside of the Haas. Gets to the inside of 4, and he's made that move. And I think Luke's going to look to try and follow Iron through, and he's going to get down the inside for 5. Those medium tyres giving him superior traction. A little bit of wheel tapping. But Luke is through as well, and that allows these two now to take off after the Mercedes at the front. They don't want to lose time to them, although Thomas definitely had superior pace, but he's going to have to make up a pit stop here throughout the rest of the race. or hope for a safety car to kind of bail them out a little bit. And Luke's going to look for a move on iron as well, so that medium versus hard that we saw from earlier now reversed. Luke on those softer tyres manages to make that move and get that position for P3. Quite a lot of shuffling going on back behind. George has managed to get his way past Mitch up into the points, although Mitch is coming back at the Ferrari and gets down the inside for the second last corner. George tries for a little switchback, but it's not really something you can do here. But he's going to get a superior exit off the final corner. Looks for a move. He's going to be on the outside of turn 1, so he needs to make sure he's got a full clear here. Yeah, he's a long way ahead by the time they get to turn 1. I think Mitch maybe just backed out slightly. Didn't want to get too involved with the F1 drivers fighting. And that is George up into P10. So a nice little move. Back up towards the front. Luke is just about hanging on in DRS range of the lead Mercedes. Although he's just slipping out and back in sort of periodically. So we'll hope to still be within this 1 second by the time DRS opens next time around. The first detection zone these guys get to use is right before this fast chicane. So we see Harry Wales making his way past Blake Ward as well with the Alpine. A good move up into P7 after he was kind of cut adrift at the start. Is managing to make up some places here, having made that pit stop under safety car onto some mediums. Whether he can get to the end will remain to be seen. I wonder if anyone's going to try and hang this out, or if they're just opting to go medium soft from the point of the safety car, which is entirely plausible. Luke's closed in an awful lot through that final sector, though, and is almost out of the, well, just slightly inside the DRS range of iron, as he seems to have a bit more straight line speed and pulls out of it, and a new fastest lap with a 20.98. So that would be an extra point over iron, which is exactly what he needs. Currently, the gap would be 20 points with 3 races to go. That means if Luke wins all of them, and iron fails to take fastest laps, then Luke would be champion. With the gap, if the gap remains at 24 points, if neither of them score, for example, then Iron could finish P2, and as long as Luke doesn't steal every fastest lap, he would be a champion. But it's always a risky strategy, relying on P2 finishes, because you never know what's going to happen, especially if Mercedes turn up like this every week. Luke's going to look for a move, though. He gets the DRS, and the assistance of that allows him past Justin. But can he compete with the pace of Thomas Grad out front? Thomas does have that 3-second penalty alongside Iron. First 2 drivers with penalties. I wonder if any of those warnings are going to get reported to potentially get removed afterwards. But of course, it kind of relies on you not getting additional warnings, as Luke sets another new fastest lap, 4 thousandths faster than last time around, and he's going to have the DRS here for the run down to turn 3, something Thomas Grad isn't going to have. Won't have that rear wing open to help him defend, and chooses not to. Luke looks for the inside. Thomas leaves him space, but he's going to manage to hang it around the outside and slot back in front as they come through turn 4. And defend that position for another few corners, as Justin picks up 3 seconds as well. So only Luke now out of the front runners without a penalty. If there's a late safety car here, it's essentially handing him the race on a silver platter. There's Callum Pearce picks up 3 seconds as well. Penalties are beginning to rack up now as we approach the midpoint of the race. And another one there, Harry getting one, as Luke does go for the move. With the DRS, there's a yellow flag, and that's Hugo. Has had a spin in the same place he died in quali, so not being completely safe. Managed to fire the Riz up trying to recover the car, and loses a place to Mitch. So that is Hugo outside the points. The only Red Bull running today. I don't think we're going to see a Red Bull outside the points in real life all too often, so for those of you who enjoy seeing Red Bull outside the points, you get to enjoy it here, courtesy of Hugo. But Harry's managed to close in on Bayode, on his teammate for this week. I don't think Bayode's going to fight this. And it just allows Harry to go through, showing a superior pace on those medium tyres. And that puts the F2 driver up into P5. Can he close in on Iron up ahead now? He's going to have that tyre advantage. And Iron isn't going to have DRS to the front three and allow him to just cruise away a little bit from the Alpine. So he's maybe going to need to start spending some battery. Luke has spent an awful lot of it as Mitch picks up 3 seconds. And Thomas is just kind of chilling. So I think Thomas is pretty happy just to sit P2 for now. Otherwise we would see some more battery usage. But this DRS is going to allow him to save up the 70+% he does have. Maybe expecting Luke to pit later on. Thinks the same as I do, that those tyres really aren't making it to the end. Not in any kind of fit state at any rate. Unless Luke really wants to hang it out within puncture range for maybe 3 or 4 laps, I think he'd have to do. But they're pretty solid until they get to puncture range. So, yeah. Luke's tyres are already up in the 20s in the wear. Whereas the hards on the Mercedes behind are only just breaking 40%. So Luke could potentially string these out, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Would be almost relying on getting a virtual safety car or something later on. Just to allow you to take some of the ambient heat out of them. Either way, Luke is going to be able to do a bit of tyre saving once the Mercedes do pit. Which could be kind of any time within the next maybe 3 or 4 laps, if they're looking for just a standard hard medium strategy. And then they'll have traffic to deal with, as we've got yellow flags for Hugo again. Traditions. And he's now kind of a distant 11th place. He's got 6 seconds to close to Mitch. And then another 7 to close to George, who is going to be looking to put Callum and Blake under some pressure within the next probably a lap or 2. As these two fighting is going to slow them up a little bit. Although Callum showing he has plenty of pace around Australia. I definitely think I'd put it up around his best tracks. An F3 driver managing to get a podium in F2 is not the easiest thing, considering the tiers are entirely pace-based. Well, Luke is dominating a little bit, but it's whether those tyres can get to the end, because obviously he's had the tyre advantage to get past these two, but obviously the lack of a penalty is kind of the defining thing right now. Luke just keeping it clean, keeping it within track limits, driving within his capabilities, not really pushing to 100%. Luke is very, very good at driving at every single lap at about that 95% point, where you're not going to see mistakes and you're not going to see track limits penalties. But obviously that is still quite a lot of pace. I'm not sure if he got a warning for that though. That would seem like a lot of a cut on the exit of the chicane. As he's definitely running hard and fast with the yellow lines at certain points of the track. Which just seems to be in the groove. And just putting together some pretty nice laps. Currently the only driver we've seen with a lap within the 1 minute 20s, as Justin pits from P3, so that is the first Mercedes to blink. Thomas choosing to go longer, would have had priority as the lead car. But chooses to go longer, stick with the DRS. Let's see where Justin rejoins. I think it's going to be around about where Mitch is. So, I mean, Mitch isn't really going to be able to defend, even if he gets to the pit exit before Justin. He doesn't. It seems like he may have had a spin, because he's he was a fair bit further back, I think. Yeah. So the gap to George had opened up to about 10 seconds. I wonder if Mitch made a mistake somewhere or had a small spin potentially. But he's still ahead of Hugo, so that's a good thing. As oh, there you go. Now he's definitely ahead of Hugo, and this is going to be a safety car, surely. Hugo's basically binned it in exactly the same place Lucas did, and Lucas's was a safety car, and Hugo's is absolutely nothing. So it's as you were. No, now it's a safety car. That is so late. Oh, I think Mitch spun. A very, very late call though for a safety car. I think we're going to see everyone in potentially. Any of these guys on mediums, if they have another set, it would make sense to box and fit them. Thomas is obviously going to come in. If Iron has another set of mediums, it would be smart for him to pit as well. And yeah, Luke and Thomas are heading into the pit lane. Iron's going to follow them, I think. Is Harry going to hang this out? No, Harry's coming in as well. So we've got a double stack at Alpine. Blake's going to head to the pits, get rid of those hard tyres. Luke's gone on softs. That's very brave, thinking softs are going to do 12 laps, Luke. There's potential, but as we see the leaders emerging from the pit lane, there's Justin just coming down the pit straight. So how many places has this lost him? Pitting that one lap earlier. Just lost him a place to Iron, that's it. So manages to survive getting jumped by Harry. With that racing speed pit stop, with everyone else making a safety car stop. But it has cost him one place, so he's going to need to make that move on Iron. On basically the same tyres, but I think Luke's being a little optimistic here with softs. They definitely have the potential, but it's also possible that Luke just had no other tyre options and didn't want to be left out as a bit of a sitting duck on some aging mediums that would have been struggling to get to the end. Anyway, so I suppose you may as well struggle to get to the end on the faster rubber. Now Mitch has gone softs as well, so Mitch has completely avoided using the mediums, I think. He's gone soft, hard, soft. See if I can get myself a co-commentator. Oh, I think Hugo might have tabbed out there and it teleported the safety car. Looked very lucky to not get disqualified. That would have been extremely unfortunate. In fact, it would have caused a red flag. Oh, and it's doing it again.
Hello, stream.
Hello, Hugo. Okay, so please can that be the last time you ever tab out?
I didn't tab out.
Oh, okay, because it was teleporting the safety car. That's weird.
Oh. Yeah. No, I don't think I did tab out. I might have done like unintentionally, but I think I used my Discord overlay thingy that I usually do.
Okay, I wonder if that was messing up with it. George has pit and put softs on as well, so we've got 3 guys on softs now. The rest on mediums. This could be spicy.
Yeah, it's a matter of how long the softs can like hold out.
I think 12 laps is very, very optimistic from Luke, but if he went with a softer tyre strategy, expecting sort of, a later than this safety car, maybe, low 20s, he didn't have anything else to put on the car, and didn't want to be a sitting duck on mediums that were going to struggle to reach the end as well.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit rock and a hard place with exactly the lap that came out. But did you feel it was a super late call on the safety car?
I actually wasn't looking.
You've been dead for like 3 hours, and then it just went, yeah, screw it, Michael Massey.
Yeah, no, I was like having my turning my recordings and stuff off from the overlay, so that was what I was doing. And then I just heard him in the voice call saying that it was a safety car, and Arjan was raging, which was like nice. Always interesting to hear him be angry.
I'm interested to know what Iron's response to Mitch fighting him was.
Well, it was it was Moses parting the sea for me in the beginning when I went from like 12th to like 5th.
I think Mitch had the same thing. Yeah, I think Mitch
had
the
Mitch
same.
And I was like
just
driving
like,
there.
Hey, look.
Mitch was like, "What is this place?" Like that, meme thingy. Yeah. Why is the safety car not coming in? Shouldn't it be?
Because by the time it was kind of too late for it to come in, Mitch hadn't caught yet.
Oh, okay.
Although the last one abandoned George like 20 seconds down the road, so Mitch is pitting for the softest, freshest softs possible.
Yeah, but he'll catch up that.
Yeah, easily. The safety car's super slow around here because it's an Aston Martin and they're terrible. Compared to the AMG Black Mercedes, it's about 5 seconds a lap slower.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal.
I don't understand why they have such a difference. Like, it shouldn't be like make a faster car if they have a standard that
Yeah.
they're like trying to.
What they should use for safety cars, hear me out on this, is an Aston Martin Valkyrie and a Mercedes Project 1.
I guess.
And then you just drive it slower, but you make it so it like the safety car has a delta to stick to, which is the safety car delta, but the car can go faster.
Then you don't like run the risk of like races when we were in Germany in 2020, where it was like the track temperature was like 10 degrees and the tires were literally freezing.
Yeah. Because, I mean, especially somewhere like Nürburgring where you've got that turn 1, you're just asking for more carnage.
Yeah. And it would also be good the Maylander wouldn't be like overdriving the car.
Yeah.
Because he is pushing harder than the F1 drivers are in that car.
Oh, it's so funny. He's absolutely flat out, and the F1 drivers just like, especially Lewis does it all the time. He's just sat behind him going, Can he go faster? It's like, absolutely not, he can't go faster.
He's like mocking him. Well, who's your bets on for winning? I mean, I would love myself a Callum Pierce podium.
Imagine. Yeah, he's got penalties though.
Oh, Luke's
That's
already.
very early. The safety car is in the pit lane though. Luke's just trying to use these soft tyres, catch everyone out through sector 3. And seem to have done decently well, but Thomas and Ian have come with, although he's kind of dropped Justin a little bit. Justin's tyres, having gone through that heat cycle, maybe just didn't quite get back up to a temperature where they needed to be. As Callum's in the pits, and Mitch has got past George. Somehow. Although George is fighting back into turn 1. 2 soft runners at the back, having a little bit of their own ding-dong.
Oh, a massive moment from Thomas. Massive moment.
He's lost a huge
He
amount of time.
narrowly escaped it into... Yeah, he was like almost driving sideways.
Yeah, 1.3 behind Luke now, and this is going to put him under pressure from Iron. And I don't think they're going to catch Luke, at least for the next few laps, as those soft tyres are going to be putting in some work until they start to look a little bit like 50Ps. But there's going to be a few laps after they reach that point, and then I think it's all going to depend on whether they can clear the 3 seconds to Luke. I don't think it's outside the realm of almost certain possibility that Thomas and Ian definitely get past, maybe Justin and possibly even Harry as well, managed to overtake Luke with having to manage those boots. But can they clear 3 seconds, which is going to be the tricky part. Especially if Luke's smart with where he defends and where he doesn't.
Yeah, I do think Bayode is out of the fight here, because as much as he's driving in a good position right now, I think he was the cause for the the lap 1 shenanigans thingy that happened with everyone dying in front of me. So I think he is kind of out of it, unless something majorly happens, which it tends to do in Australia for some reason.
Yeah, it's true. We've only had 2 safety cars. There's another 3 to go, so this is going to be an action-packed 5 laps, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see like a new winner on the top step. Would have been interesting.
Ooh. Speaking of Bayo, I was riding on board and just went completely sideways on the exit of 4. Which is not going to help and has dropped him out of DRS range of his teammate. Luke's managed to pull 2 seconds on Thomas at the front. So after penalties, that's going to be 5. So that's the gap Thomas needs to gain over this last 7 laps. If he can somehow find a way to do it. Luke's hanging on to slightly more battery, but only slightly. So he's just kind of playing it pretty close to his chest at the moment. He's not completely dumped everything, but he has spent a fair amount just to try and maintain this gap as much as possible. Although the far behind are all in DRS.
To be fair, he's not far out from everyone else. Like, they're kind of everyone in the same ballpark when it comes to the amount of battery they have in store.
Yeah.
The DRS is now activated as well, so we can see if there will be a bit of movement in the track positions behind the leader of Luke Mills.
I think we might see Justin sort of dumping everything just to try and get Iron. Trying to take some of the pressure off Thomas as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. As much as like getting himself points, it gives it a bit more like it takes a bit of pressure off from his teammate there in Thomas Gard, who has just recently stepped into the Mercedes seat to fill in for Quentin Hesh, who has
mid-season transfer. Mercedes getting their checkbook out.
Yeah, and it just made sense since they're both from the same team, like a league racing organization, which is
they're both.
George Parr is out of the race after turn 7.
How's he been?
That's a safety car. Oh my god, this is interesting.
Who has soft tires left?
I don't think anyone do. I don't really think that.
Mitch might have another set.
Mitch might, or he will, because, or they might be scrubbed like one lap because he went into the box multiple times under the safety car.
Yeah.
But this is perfect for someone like Blake Ward, who is without penalties right now and can just give himself a fresh set of tires and keeps the gap together to the top. Luke is in again. And the others stay out.
I think Luke kind of had to come in. Justin's in.
Justin's in. Harris in. Bayod stays out. Blake is in. Yeah, that's just the most logical thing for Blake to do.
I think Luke had to come in because he was just going to lose that gap he'd built and have them completely on his back.
Ariane crashed with a safety car.
What?
Ariane just crashed with a safety car. He went flying past Thomas and crashed into the safety car. I'm surprised he's not been disqualified or been flying to Narnia or something.
His front wing seems intact somehow.
The absolute...
Is that potentially a little bit of lag, maybe, considering the front wing's still intact?
It could be something decent, but it surely shouldn't be. Like, that looks just like he wasn't really ready for the safety car's pace and the pace of Thomas Gard in front of him, I think. But, anyway. Something that is interesting, though, is that the leader from Wolverhampton right now is Mitch Snape and not Luke Mills, which isn't what you expected coming into today.
Mitch was fighting Luke earlier on, so it's just brought them back together again. All on strategy, completely nothing else has impacted that at all.
Strategy? What do you mean? It's pace. Pure pace.
Yeah, Mitch was fighting Luke on pace earlier.
No, but this is the beauty of street tracks. I love myself a bit of street tracks. I don't think there should be as many street tracks as we have, like currently in F1, because I think it takes a bit of the magic out of it. Like, I'd prefer it if it was just like Monaco, Australia, Canada. Or I don't like Canada.
I think the thing with them though is as long as they're all like different enough, there's a lot of different things you can do with the street track. In the same way, there's a lot of different things you can do with a custom circuit. But I think if they're different enough, it's fine. So something like saying, "Oh, I don't like street tracks. I don't think we should have like Monaco and Jeddah," is a dumb argument because they're completely different.
Yeah, I agree.
I think like, you could make an argument that Australia and Canada are too similar, where they're kind of circuits but also kind of streets.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you can also make the argument that they aren't really a typical street track. In the street track thing, like I love myself a bit of Monaco, which is like one of my favorite tracks because of just the history, how drivers are forced to drive it with like the pressure just building up. And I don't really buy the argument that says that like you can't overtake and stuff, because that's not what Monaco is about. It's like the pressure to like deliver the perfect qualifying lap under pressure with these heavy cars, and then maintaining the pressure, like when you have like Ricciardo in 2018, where he just had Lewis driving behind him, lap after lap after lap, and he just like didn't fail, and like the pressure on his shoulders at that time must have been immense. And the same for Lewis, holding Max behind him in 2019.
I think obviously Ricciardo had the power disadvantage, where with Lewis it was just tyres, so you can use a little bit, sort of eke them out a bit, whereas when you're down on power there's absolutely nothing you can do. Like, he just had no battery power whatsoever. So he was always going to be in that situation where he was going to have Lewis behind with more pace, but couldn't make the move because it's Monaco. But I think Lewis having Max behind was maybe a little more daunting just because of how aggressive Max is. Which, whether you think that's good or bad, is entirely, personal preference. But I think it's just daunting having someone like that behind you that you know will attempt an overtake at any corner, if he feels like he could get it done. Which is... I think Monaco's kind of... Yes, fine, there's significantly less overtaking than there used to be at Monaco, because the cars are so much bigger. But I definitely think it's been hit a little bit by that drive to survive mentality of... it needs to be visual entertainment, whereas the technical side of Formula 1 and maybe sort of the driver fitness and driver mentality side of it has kind of been left behind a little bit.
Yeah, and that's like what I like from races. Like, if you take one of my favorite Grand Prix over the recent year is the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, and that wasn't it wasn't a spectacle on overtakes, but it was so good on strategy all the way through, with Max starting on the hard tires. But now let's skip over to the GRS race here. We're here at
as Luke is now the lead Wolverhampton driver again. And Justin's finding his way past Mitch as well. Mitch a little compromised on those 7-lap-old softs. They're going to be kind of square as he completely cuts turn 3. And that's going to put Harry through as well and gives Mitch 3 more seconds of penalties. Although Harry's off track at 4. And we know what the game likes to do at that particular corner. Let's jump back on with Luke as he's going to take a look at the back of the Alpine of Bayode, who's currently running P3. So
he's so close now.
Looking at a podium, but this is going to be very tight down here. Bayode leaves exactly a car's width, and Luke says thank you very much and takes it. He's going to be able to get a little later on the brakes through here and just squeezes the Alpine out of room through the quick chicane. And Justin's going to look to follow Luke through as well. Bayode closes that door off, and Justin has to go around the outside. Can he make a move stick here? This is going to be very tight through Sector 3. Bayode's not giving this up without a fight. There's wheel-to-wheel contact. I don't think there was anything really in it. A little bit of a slide and a snap, and Justin does manage to get the place. Bayode should probably cede to Harry here as well and allow Harry to take off after this front group. But Luke has very, very quickly closed onto the back of Iron. 5-second time penalty for Justin. That may get removed, depending on, well, me. I was going to say stewarding, and then I was like, well, I'm stewarding.
There's a fight at the back as well for who is the worst driver of the Wolverhampton guys' life now. And Callum Pearce is currently trailing Mitch Snape in the battle. And there's been a spinner of Harry Wales.
Oh dear. So Harry's not from Wolverhampton, but it does start with a W. So he's now the worst W driver. Least Ws. There you go. And Luke
no, that's me. I spun 4 times. I had the least Ws this race.
Oh, absolutely. Most Ls. Most minus apexes.
Or I mean, George Parr crashed on the safety car, so I mean, you can also count him in.
That is true, Marek. Wolverhampton is a big L indeed, especially their football team. Hi, Mitch. As Luke's gonna stay behind Iron for now. There's gonna be 2 laps left to go. He needs to make this move really to stop Thomas running away and getting outside that penalty window. As he looks at the outside, Iron manages to defend the apex. There's not really a place for a cutback there, and Justin's going to go for a move.
No!
And their wheels lock together, and
oh dear,
that's not good. That was a little bit of game physics, I think. Luke just getting out of the way with no front wing of some of the cars coming through. Very unfortunate, but look who that promotes to P3.
The title fight, no.
Yeah, that's a little
and
scuffed.
They crashed again.
Oh, I think that might be a little bit of possibly understeer from Luke's front wing.
Maybe, but I hope that's not revengeful.
Harry got very. That doesn't sound like Luke. I think. I don't
it
think
doesn't, but it could have been like I don't know. I'm not going like to point fingers at Justin either, but I don't know. I'm just hoping we haven't had anything dirty going on there.
Yeah.
Like intentionally dirty. Obviously, something dirty going on in the last corner. Otherwise, they would have been crashing. But you know what I mean.
Mitch was P4. What the hell has gone on?
He was last.
Mitch is fighting with Callum for P4. This is 2 F3 drivers going toe-to-toe to be 1 step off the podium in F1. And,
I would love to be a fly on the wall in
they're
the
not entirely,
channel.
They're not entirely ditching Bayode. He is sort of gaining slightly, but that would be expected on Mitch with those 9-lap-old softs. But I think Callum definitely has a chance to get out of the penalty range of Bayode, or stay out of the penalty range of Bayode over this last lap or so. As Thomas leads the way onto the final lap. He's dumped all his battery to try and get the hell away from Iron, which I don't blame him for, I'll be completely honest. And Iron's just kind of chilling a little bit here. He's managing to bridge that gap out to Blake slightly, so it's now at 3.7 seconds. Can Blake find 7/10 on this final lap and move himself up into P2? Or will it be a podium for a driver that began the season in F3?
Yeah, it's anyone's game now. honestly. I don't think he's been involved in anything weird.
No, I
but
think Blake's been very clean. I mean, he generally is. I'm
yeah,
struggling to
he's
think of Blake
great
getting
driver.
reported for anything. So there's
Me neither
we
from my
do have
driving seat.
yeah, we do have a fair few drivers in here. As Harry's made a move on Justin, so I think Justin's probably carrying some damage as well as Luke. So that puts Harry up into P7. Although Justin's going to have the DRS to
Second free
try and
yellow
make that
flag.
move back.
Oh,
That's
and that's
Callum.
Callum. No.
Oh, Callum. That's going to put Bayo to P4 after penalties, but Thomas is just rounding the final corner to take the first race win for Mercedes in any tier this year, which sounds cracked. Iron takes P2
really
and
is.
another 18 points to extend his lead at the top. Blake does manage to get a podium. He's kept it clean, stayed away from all the trouble. Bayo spun out the last corner. Mitch is going to get P4!
He would have been anyways, because I am pretty sure Bayard is going to get a penalty for taking half the grid out. And Mitch was 1.6 seconds ahead of him with 6 seconds penalty, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
Mitch did.
It's nothing. It's not a sure thing, obviously.
Mitch
but
must have had 6 seconds of penalties, not 3.
He did.
Aww.
He did. But 6 plus, like, if there would have been a 4.5 second gap to Bayard if Bayard stayed. So it would have been if Bayard had a penalty, obviously. But yeah, we don't know.
It depends on how everything happened.
That
will require
I can ping the podium sitters.
Yeah, if you want Thomas, Iron, and Blake. Blake. That was so scuffed.
I wonder if we have some inter-team friction here with in the league racing team of ABS when 2 of the drivers just had that major collision.
I mean, I would hope not, but I suppose you never know.
I don't know.
It was. I would say it was definitely optimistic from Justin, but I don't think there was anything wrong with going from the move. Luke had lost time behind Iron, and he just kind of, with so few laps left, you've kind of got to go for something like that, really.
What up?
Hello. Hello, and well done on getting P2. I don't think you anticipated that, did you?
So, do you want me to start on the drama part or like first race, how the race went?
We can wait until we have everyone in. Let's say.
Okay, so I can start with my race. So basically, I had no pace. I was fucking slow. So I decided to do the opposite strategy, starting on mediums. It worked out in the first part when first safety car came.
Then someone had a skill issue.
Yeah, someone decided to spin and then crash out.
No, first skill issue was Lucas. You were the second skill issue.
Yeah, but it worked. He meant it worked because of Lucas' skill issue. But then I had a skill issue and ruined it for him.
But anyway, I decided to go on new mediums, and yeah, then another safety car came out, and the last safety car, that was nuts. I decided to stay out. I saw Luke pitting, so I just knew my aim was going to be I have to defend at all costs, just to either give me P2 because I had 3 warnings at that point, so I could get one removed, but I got a warning after, so that doesn't matter anymore. So then I was just like, okay, let's just defend and hope I can make a 3-second gap to Thomas, so Thomas can win and then Luke gets P2, so he doesn't even win. But then the Justin thing happened, which was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that on stream, and I don't know. It's. I think it looked. I mean, I could be wrong, but it looked like a physics thing where the cars just kind of locked together. And I don't think Justin was inherently wrong for going for the move where he tried it.
Justin, I saw it from my because I was looking in the rear mirror because I saw they were going side by side. Justin just completely understeered into Luke, and he just.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question though, because I had something on my monitor which was really weird. Did you crash or did you not with the safety?
Yeah, that's the point. So basically, I was looking at the mini map, and I didn't know the safety car was coming up. So I basically, yeah.
Yeah, because I see it from like a frontal part of so I see it from I see the front of the safety car, and I just see it flying past.
Let's me just say was on.
Yeah, and you should also be lucky that you didn't get disqualified, because
Yeah.
that can happen from
Generally,
finishing
hitting the safety car turns your car into
I guess
C4.
it's
So,
turning close.
but
Yeah,
let's.
you don't have a skill issue like some certain Norwegian guy who gets disqualified for
that is
safety
true.
car infringement.
Sure. But I guess the main point is I'm gaining points. to
Yeah,
Luke,
absolutely.
And we're now heading into
That
the
puts
double header,
your-
which is
Yeah, that puts your gap at. Luke got P7 in the end, so that is 6 points. Plus he got fast start, that's 7. So that puts your gap to 35 with 3 to go.
yep. And the next two are Singapore.
Hear your lovely soothing voice in F3, and then we get to see you on track normally in F2. First race in F1, and you steal a podium. How do you feel about that?
Surprised, to say the least. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, especially at the end, I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, after the first safety car and I saw that I really should have gone in to get rid of the old hards, I was just kind of there to have fun. And then the whole track in front of me exploded, and I ended up P3 somehow. Kind of
It's just
how
so
it went.
satisfying. Yeah, it's so satisfying when you have those races where it feels like everything is going for you, rather than against you. Like, how did your race pace feel like throughout the race?
I mean, I could definitely tell it was F1. I was having to push pretty hard to keep up with people in front of me and push pretty hard to defend from people behind me. So it was fun, definitely.
Yeah,
Good
it's
job, and
definitely a step up from F2.
Definitely, yeah.
Probably I would say more so than F3 to F2. Some of the guys at the top end of F1 are just on another
Yeah,
planet.
insane. Like in that first safety car restart when I was P3, I just dropped through the field so fast. It was crazy how much better everyone else was on that. But yeah, it was
well,
fun.
to say the least, you did a fantastic job. And no
Yeah.
matter, like, it's not always just like about your pace. It's also knowing when to do stuff, keeping yourself
yeah,
out of
for sure.
trouble. And you've proved a point that you are great at doing that. So well done.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, you get just as much from keeping clean as you do from being mega fast.
For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that's the only reason I'm leading F2 right now.
Yeah, because everyone else
real, I
keeps
mean-
crashing.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of people in there that are faster than me on pace.
But here you are with a podium in F1. So who's to talk, really?
I know, only good drivers get podiums in F1, right, Hugo?
What do you mean? I got a podium in the first round.
Were you fourth? Were you fourth? Oh no, penalties you got third. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Come
but
on, try me.
penalties
Try
don't
me.
count. Penalties don't count.
You
I'm
mean
removing
yeah,
all
okay,
of
so
them.
if penalties don't count, then I won, and then I had my podium in.
No, removing
Mexico.
penalties counts. Giving penalties doesn't.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so I think we'll end off there for today. That was F1 Australia. So it was round 10 of 13, so 3 to go. Gap at the top extends out to 35 points between Ian Bilbas and Luke Mills. So Ian in definitely the driver's seat here to go back to back on GRS F1 titles.
Don't jinx it.
You said you're in the driver's seat. Everyone's also in the driver's seat when they crash.
So here we announce that Arjen has won the championship.
It would
Nah,
take
I'm
a miracle. I believe in the words of Toto Wolff, all it takes is one DNF to turn it round. So, I mean, you
But,
never know. You never know. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think we're going to
everything can
leave that off for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will be back next week.
Oh,
where
we have a
head
certified internet issue from Adam. But yeah,
standard.
make sure to subscribe, like the stream, and tune in next week. Essentially, what I predicted you were going to say.
Yeah, pretty much. Singapore. For, racing under the lights in Marina Bay. So I have been Zeke, and I was joined by Hugo after his skill issue. So we will say good night.
Bye.